Hey everyone, Mr. Holder back here. In this next video, I want to show you how you can open a file properly in Illustrator that already exists, and also how to save a file a couple of different ways, and also how you can change your document once it's already set up, because after you go through the creation of a new file, you might change your mind on how many artboards you want or even the size of the artboard. And that's a question that comes up quite often from my students is how do I change the document once it's already set up? So the first thing, let's go ahead and get a file open. I'm going to go ahead and go to the file menu like I did before in my last video on creating a new file, but only this time I'm going to go File, Open. And I'm going to search for the file that I want to open on my computer. So I'm going to go to my documents in this case and look for that particular file that I want to open. Okay, so here we have just a basic Illustrator text design, and the reason I brought this one up is because you'll notice that the artwork actually extends beyond the borders of the image, and we could save this in a special way without creating any kind of a clipping mask, and have the output, for example, on a printer, go ahead and cut off this excess stuff without us having to do a clipping mask, which is really helpful if you have artwork that extends beyond the edges, if you have a bleed that is going beyond the edges of your actual artboard. So again, to open a file, you simply just go File, Open, or Control-O on a Windows-based computer or Command-O on a Mac to get that open. Surf over to where you saved that particular file and just hit Open, and it opens right up. Once the file's open, say you want to go in and change your document setup. It's already established, but maybe you want to make this a little bit smaller, your artboard a little bit smaller. In this case, we have a print size 8.5 by 11 standard sheet of paper, and I want to change that. You just simply go up to the document setup button here, and you're going to choose Edit Artboards. And what's going to happen is you're going to see this tool options bar change, and you can do different things like aligning, and you can change the XY axis from the center point of this artboard and shift it around, etc. But you can also go in and change your width and height in inches. You can constrain those two so that they size down proportionally, or you can unlink it and change it just the height, for example, and leave the width at 8.5. It's just entirely up to you. You can also change the orientation from here if you'd like. I'm not going to do a whole lot to it, but I did want to bring that up because it's a common question that comes up when you want to adjust artboards after a file that's already been created in Illustrator. So you can see here I could just arbitrarily drag these handles to, and it will resize my artboard. To get out of this, you could just simply click a tool or just hit Escape to get out of that, and you're back in edit mode in Illustrator. So the third thing I wanted to show you after File, Open, and document setup is how do you save the file properly. There's obviously a number of different ways you can do this depending on what your preference is. If you want to just save the actual Illustrator file and come back and work on it later, you could just say File, Save As, and choose Illustrator as the default save format that comes up. You could also save it as a PDF. What's great about saving it as a PDF is somebody can open up that PDF with Adobe Reader. If you're sending, for example, a proof over to your client or somebody that does not have Illustrator, they'll be able to open this up and at least take a look at it. But these are all different vector formats that you can choose from. The common ones you'll see, of course, is the Adobe Illustrator.ai extension, which is the default Adobe format for Illustrator, PDF, and also EPS. Some of these other ones I'm not too familiar with, but they're ones also that you don't use a whole lot, or you only use in specific cases. So if I wanted to save this, I would just choose Illustrator and hit Save. This is a file I've already saved before, so of course it's going to ask me if I want to replace it. Chances are, if you haven't saved it yet, it won't ask you this, but I'm going to go ahead and hit Yes. And then you're going to get a whole bunch of options here that you have to choose from. You can save it for more backwards compatible versions of Illustrator, which is wonderful. If you have somebody using an older version of CS or older version of Illustrator, you could set it to that older version, and they'll be able to open it up on their computer. Everything else I'm going to go ahead and keep all by itself. I don't want to make changes to this. In most cases, under Illustrator options, I just leave it alone. I don't change anything. I just leave it at the default settings and simply hit OK, and it will save it. Now, if I wanted to save this and maybe send it to somebody to print that does not have Illustrator, that wants to open up a more compressed version of this file or a non-vector version of the file, I can have them go in and say File, Export. Now, under your export function, you're going to get a whole slew of different choices here, most of which are bitmap and raster-based file formats. Basically, they're image formats. And so if you know a thing or two about Illustrator, you know it's a vector-based program. It uses a different technology, a mathematics-based technology to show and display and let you work in an environment that uses vector-based technology rather than pixels, which is where bitmap and JPEG and Photoshop files come from. So if I wanted to send this off to somebody and have them be able to open it up and send it to a printer as a compressed image, you have the JPEG format here. So there's some common ones that you could expect to use in here, and a lot that you don't have to worry about. For example, AutoCAD's very specific, one you don't have to worry about. Bitmap's not a very good compressed format, in my opinion, that you need to worry about, or Flash. I typically am going to use a JPEG format in most cases, or a PNG, which is great because it preserves the transparency of your background. So if you don't have any artwork in the background, it will not show up. And if you want it to float graphics, for example, on a website and not have a white box in the background, you can choose PNG for that. And then the last one, which is really good for print, is tagged image file format or TIFF format. But in most cases, those are the three that you're going to use and not have to worry about the other ones. Now, the neat thing about choosing JPEG before you hit save that I want to point out, really important here, is I have artwork that's bleeding off the edges. So if I don't want that artwork to show up in my final print or show up in a preview, I want to make sure that I say use artboards. Use artboards so that it knows to only print out or generate a JPEG with the artwork within the artboard. So it's going to see the borders or the boundaries of the artboard and cut off the rest, which is really great because if you're not familiar with things like clipping masks to be able to achieve that, then this is the thing for you. And in a lot of cases, even if you have a clipping mask that's showing your artwork being cut off, sometimes it will still show up with extra white space around your artboards when you go to JPEG. And sometimes that's frustrating for people because they'll end up with a whole lot of extra white space beyond the border, and that's because the computer still sees that invisible graphic that's being cut off by the clipping mask. So in all cases, I would highly suggest just checking off use artboard, say all on it, and anything that extends beyond that's not going to show up. So I'm going to hit save. And what this is going to do is bring up a JPEG option dialog. Color model, if I'm going to a printer, I set it to CMYK. If I'm going onto the web, I set it to RGB. Of course, quality, I'm always going to leave the quality at the highest possible. But if you understand how quality works, of course, the lower that you make that, the worse it's going to look. I want the best image possible, but if it's something that's going up on the web that doesn't need maximum, I can probably set this to the middle point and it'll still look good. You also have a choice of a resolution because now you're going to take your vector file and turn it into a bitmap or rasterized pixel-based file. So you need to know a thing or two about where to set that. What I like about this is it gives you the typical screen resolution, which if you're sending it to a web-based display like your screen, sending it through email, then I'm going to set it to 72 ppi. If I'm going to a printer, I'm going to set it to high. If I want to kind of have middle of the road, it gives me a medium. So I'm going to leave mine at medium because I might want to print this and I might want to put it up on the web. So if I want the best of two worlds and I don't want to have to create two files, I can always do that too. After that, I'm just going to simply hit OK, not worry about anything else, and now the file is actually saved like that. So if I surf over to that particular JPEG file that I've created, you're going to notice that the artwork has been cut off on that particular file. All that extra artwork that went beyond the edges is now cut off. So here is the JPEG file. I'm going to go ahead and open it just with Adobe Photoshop. And you can see all that extra artwork it clipped it off, it cut it off, and so now I have a file that's pretty much ready to go to a printer if I want to, and I don't have to worry about that extra space. So that's pretty much it. That'll take you through how to open up files, how to adjust the document size of files that already exist, and also how to save your files and export those properly. And we'll see you back in the next video.